Spider-Man, Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man. I mean, maybe it's because part of my head never mentally aged past the mid to late 90s, but that's kind of driving rock still does it way too much for me. So, hello everyone, with Craven the Hunter, her, her flopping, more or less putting an end to the SSU, and the director is now being locked in for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I think it's time to finally take a look back at another one I've been meaning to that I've been wanting to cover for a while, but I thought I might finally do before the year's out. So here's a video looking back at 30 years of Spider-Man animated series, which is one of my favorite incarnations of the character, which ran from 1994 to 1999. So let's get started. Admittedly, there are aspects to the product of its time, especially in regards to some of the CGI tracking shots, but while the artwork and animation may not have been on the same level as, say, its contemporaries of Batman or Superman or X-Men, the writing certainly was, in both how it appealed to its audience, but also how it managed to find a way to work and introduce comic lore to said audience, both story arcs that were running at the time, all the way back to those stories that have been going back decades, and I especially appreciate how it was a serialized storyline from season to season, and a practice which is complex today in animated television, but was actually quite forward-thinking for the time, as were a lot of aspects. I mean, and even though there was certain, they couldn't actually physically say some of the events happened, they still kept some of the key canon events, not just Peter himself, with him demonstrating his ability as a wrestler, which allow an armed robber to slip by him, and doing Uncle Ben. But also for other Marvel characters were featured there, inside the comics, as well as the rogues gallery of characters, like how not just obvious names that are occurring in Sinister Six, which include the likes of the Shocker, Doctor Octopus, the Vulture, the Kingpin, the Scorpion, and the Rhino. But also managed to find effective uses of characters in a way that the SSU didn't really. Of course, there was Venom at the height of the popularity of the character, so of course they took advantage of that, arguably. But they also managed to find compelling ways to reimagine Craven the Hunter, Michael Morbius, and the enigmatic Madam Web in a way that if and when these characters are ever rebooted for the near future, or at the very least, souls just given back to Marvel, well, that I think they should do, not just as go throwing them on screen because you can, but actually making sure audiences understand who these characters are and how these variants operate. And I mean, even if I'm not the most familiar with Webb, as I pointed before, this was my introduction to that character, and I didn't really need a whole movie or like a freak accident involving like a falling Pepsi sign. I mean, I was under the impression that she was born blind and her precognitive powers have offset that, and she was in the chair because she was elderly and infirm. She can't cancel these multiversal threats. If only someone could help her. And, oh yes, in the final season, including the last 2 episodes before the show went off the air, they managed to have variants from different timelines, including the Ben Reilly variants, but even poked some fun at the highly divisive Clone Saga and how even within the company itself is becoming synonymous to arc fatigue, or, to quote the show itself, this is starting to sound like a bad comic plot. And yes, not only can like the quipping and back and forth dialogue be traced back here to as with a lot of other shows in this time period, but also how they approach crossovers with characters. I mean, not only when the show started getting really good in the second season onward with the Neogenetic Nightmare storyline did they have a crossover with the X-Men animated series I previously covered, but they also brought in all manner of other Marvel characters at various points in the show's run, including Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, The Punisher, Captain America, and Daredevil and Nephew. Who? So, and I still have to give major credit headed to the head writer and story editor John Semper, who, even with the limitations they had at the time, which I'll be addressing in a moment, and due to like the whole discourse over the action of Batman and X-Men, especially Power Rangers, there's a lot of edicts from standard practices as were imposed in the show, which can be seen in there, but others were talked about at convention appearances, and even to this day, still more than happy to clear the air about why they were in place. I mean, some of the demands made sense, like how you couldn't punch people in the face. Nice, the guns couldn't fire live ammunition, and 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 but some of the other one that also explains why they had like all these energy weapons. When Blade appeared, he had like a lightsaber or a beam katana, as opposed to the usual blades. Haze, but others were admittedly kind of funny and just how bizarre they were and how far they would go to discourage the ever-present bugbear of imitatable acts. X-Men, which include, but not limited to, who like a criminal may not go free or be given a ticket to Canada, or my personal favorite, as well as John's, when Spider-Man lands on the roof, make sure he does not harm any pigeons. I wonder if that line influenced Insomniac for like the pigeon tracking missions in their games. It's just so interesting. Rather odd demands from network censors aside, I still submit the show did a great job at introducing seeing concepts from the comics to their young audience, but also I'll find unique ways interpreting them for all the comic readers at the time, especially when and the company was nearing financial ruin when after the crash in '96, and also another demand that was made was how it's a bit more tangible given all the figurines and whip shooters I saw people playing with in those days. And basically, one of the demands that has from the business side of the work was that they basically wanted to make it something like commercial to sell people more merchandise and toys. They never said it had to be a bad commercial, anyways. Which will not be the only cartoon based on like a superhero comic I'll be addressing in the future that had that edict forced upon it. I mean, because I mentioned this before, but bears mentioning again. And when you're doing this, you're not just selling them on a mixture of plastic and die-cast metal. We're selling them on basically the entire world to go with it. And I especially, even though I definitely saw the show sporadically during its initial run, with some of the Neo Geo Dynamic episodes not being shown because of after 2001, initially because of some of the shots of the World Trade Center being involved. I did watch the show from start to finish when they aired all the Spider-Man cartoons on ABC Family, which was after it was called the Family Channel, but before it was now known as Freeform, the character's 40th anniversary in 2002, as well as like a sort of a cross promotion with the Raimi movie, which also was kind of one of the reasons why the show ended when it did. Though it is kind of odd to see how one variant of the character I enjoy had another variant ending. it's not even the first time that even happened in a franchise, at least as other people told me. With the recent success of X-Men '97, Evan, for Disney Plus, there has been, of course, talk about a similar show being made presumably titled Spider-Man '99. And even though the voice actor for Spider-Man has denied such rumors, of course he'd be more than happy to do it if he were asked, and I certainly hope he gets that chance because the X-Men revival brought back a lot of actors from the original show that were still around, and even notably, even given the way hey that that this show ended, there's a brief scene that implies that he found his way back to his own timeline with his beloved wife Mary Jane, and I especially think they could also use the advances we've had since that time of the last 30 years to not only give us a more showy production, but also one that honors what came before. Or, I mean, I definitely think they did a good job using X-Men 97 as a barometer. Heck, they even had their own version of the CG outro sequences. I always appreciate, like, sometimes it's a little details like that I appreciate. It's where here, and I think the one key reason why the show's endured for so long among myself and many others is that it's another version of a character that really understands what makes it work. I mean, as I stated before and I'll say it again, Spider-Man represents who we want to be as people, while Peter Parker represents who we truly are, as well as anyone else behind that mask. And I'm not, even though there's currently debating about how another attempt at an SSU would go, personally, which however it entails, I think this would actually be a good model to follow, to build the blocks of the story as opposed to trying to brute force everything. And so, there's that. Anyway, that'll be all for now, and got a couple ideas about a video tomorrow, and especially given when the strike expires. And now, given how I have not gotten any response, and tomorrow is honestly the last time they could do it, I'm almost certain an AI wasn't involved, so that'll be all for now. So, take care. Excelsior. Mm-hmm.